I'm the Reverend Helen Appelberg and the founder of Community of Hope International. I'm also a priest in the Episcopal Church and have been retired from active priesthood to new active priesthood as a retiree and live in Galveston, Texas. The Community of Hope is a Christian movement intended to create communities of prayer and pastoral ministries that are shaped by the spirituality of the early church and from the rule of St. Benedict from the 6th century. The Community of Hope was founded 18 years ago in St. Luke's Episcopal Hospital in the Texas Medical Center in Houston. It began as a training location for men and women to become lay chaplains in the hospital, and within just days or weeks or months, we discovered that it was meant to be a ministry in many more and other kinds of places, far beyond the walls of St. Luke's Hospital. And through the years of churches, hospitals, hospices, organizations of many kind, and particularly now retirement centers, are saying, we want a training center in our location to train the men and women in this place or this place to become lay chaplains. As Community of Hope spread across the country over the last 18 years, we are now in not all the states by any means, but in at least probably 30 states by now. We have Community of Hopes in Canada. They're very new and very young. We have a Community of Hope in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. And lay chaplains are still functioning there, serving the community. And in the last 2 years, we've been seeing the development of Community of Hope in Africa, particularly in Uganda, and now requests are coming in from places in Nigeria and other locations. But what is it? How do you become a lay chaplain? One of the unique things about the Community of Hope is that you can become a lay chaplain and trained in your local parish or congregation of any Christian faith, or in an institution that wants to provide training for people to serve people of all faiths. And Community of Hope is like that. It's for that. But you can place an order for the materials after going through a series of applications and become a Community of Hope training center without having to go away from your location and be trained. Because you train as you engage. And as you engage, you participate in the development of the movement, the program, the 14 weeks of study, and everybody gets on board together. We're unique in that as we are trained for ministry, we're doing two things. We're not just focusing on now we can go and serve this group or this group because these people in this location are our target. But we train to serve the wider community. If we're in a church, we serve the people within our congregation, and then we'll find that we'll have a group going out to serve the homeless or to be in the resale shop and be there to be with people who probably are in crisis, looking for new furniture, new clothes, for all kinds of reasons. We train so that we can be with people in crisis no matter where they are, so that we're not doing the kind of ministry that requires us to stay in one place over a long term. It differentiates us from another wonderful training program called D.Min Ministry, which is primarily for training people to do one-on-one ministry with one person over time. But we go out in pairs if we can. We like to have a training or a ministry partner so we can be mutually accountable and support each other as we minister. Well, why the Rule of Benedict? The Rule of Benedict, if you will, and I hope you will, have a chance to study the rule and discover the richness of the rule, which is only 9,000 words. It's not a long and arduous document. It's very straightforward. It's about the skills and the practices of the spiritual life that prepares each of us to be open to the other, to believe and trust that the hospitality of the Christian faith is to search for and look for the Christ in the other person, the stranger at the door. And as we approach them, to serve them and to, in humility, provide ministry to them, our prayer is that that stranger will receive us and look for the Christ in us. The hospitality that's taught in the rule is woven throughout the rule that says we are called to serve the sick. We are called to choose to be in silence and seek God. We are called to be in community together for the sake of becoming who God intends us to be. And that's the basic and the foundational part of what the Rule of Benedict meant to offer to the world in the 6th century in Italy. During those many years that followed the fall of Rome, and there was a chaos in the culture everywhere, people were looking for stability and a place where they could be received. The Benedictine monastic communities in the early church in those years are often called the hospice of their day and the beginning of the hospital world that we've created in today's culture. But the rule is much more than that. It's a distillation of Holy Scripture for daily living. The person who used that term in writing a commentary about the rule is a Benedictine nun whose name is Joan Chittister. Joan is still practicing her monastic life as well as serving the wider world by being one of the finest writers and presenters that most of us can hear in this contemporary day. Even though the Episcopal Church was the beginning place and the Episcopal Hospital and the Medical Center was the founding location of Community of Hope, today Community of Hope, and just even from the beginning, denominations of all Christian faiths began to say, how can we have Community of Hope in our place of worship? And that's what it is. It's meant for all denominations. And I will say that we are also very open in classes for people of other faiths and other traditions who want to bring their tradition and learn with us and learn about the Christian tradition, so that it's us together, it's all of us worshiping God, being together as we study and learn how to serve others, how to divest ourselves and be present and be the listening, compassionate presence for the hurting world in which we live. I like to quote the part of the rule that caught my eye when I first learned about Benedictine spirituality from another famous Benedictine writer. Her name is Esther Duval. Esther's a British scholar, Benedictine, and wrote one of the first commentaries on the rule back in about 1985. And it is called Seeking God, a Way of Benedict. And as I read the rule and under Esther's leadership, the part that caught my eye the most was Rule 36. And by the way, I have a copy of the rule. I try to keep it close at hand all the time. But Chapter 6 says that, and this was written by this very inspired young Italian man, care of the sick must rank above and before all else, so that they may truly be served as Christ, who said, I was sick and you visited me. And what you did for one of the least of my people, you did for me. And so that's really the heart of the rule. And as you read it and study it, and we encourage the beginning of the readership of the rule when we begin the training. And so many men and women around the country that I get to see once in a while or hear from, and they're doing what is encouraged, and it will be encouraging for you to know that we read the rule every day, and we wear out one book and order another one. Because the rule is, as Joan Chittister says, it's the distilled, practical language of Holy Scripture about how to live what God wills us to do, and that is to let go of ourselves and pay attention to those around us, knowing that God is always present. I hope that as you hear this introduction, you will have the opportunity to hear the first module that's taught in Community Folk Training, and that's a module presented by Brother Michael Gallagher, who teaches about the rule of Benedict, not just through the eyes of being a reader, living in his own house in his own neighborhood, but he practices the practice of this spirituality in the monastery where he lives. And so I'd like to say that I encourage you to step in and get going so that you can hear him and hear all the other faculty and the teachers during these 14 weeks of training. So many people will say, well, now that I've been trained and I'm a lay chaplain and I'm in my church or I'm in my place, I'm in my retirement center, I'm over here in this institution where I work, and now I'm a lay minister or a lay chaplain. That's just the beginning. Because the pathway we've carved in the Community of Hope is almost a three-pronged path. One is to be commissioned after you're trained and to begin stepping out there, discerning the ministry to which you are called. A lot of that will be based on the spiritual gifts that you've discovered God has given you as you go through your training. And yet the other commitment that we make as we graduate is to continue being in community with each other, so that we gather again in the place where we were trained every month. We come back to pray together, to share a meal together, to worship together, to enjoy each other's fellowship and friendship. We deepen our relationship with each other as we deepen our relationship with God. We also come back together on a regular basis for continuing education. We will be producing continuing education DVDs and studies. We will be recommending for you all the different ways you can continue to grow, just as though each of us are little pebbles that have been dropped in the water, and the circles go out, and we never know how far beyond our reach the ministry and the touch that we've been given is shared with others and touches others' lives. The third prong of Community of Hope is to continue to train others who knock on the door. Word's out there. You have lay chaplains. You're doing a study that goes on and on. I want to be part of that community. So we do our very best to share our resources and continue with a training center. If we're in a retirement center, we can have a class every year because we know, maybe twice a year, because we know we have newcomers all the time. Newcomers looking for a way to find a deeper meaning in their life, a deeper and more engaging way to feel that now I have time to do what I've always wanted to do. Now I can study and enjoy and be with other people. I can develop spiritual practices. I can practice them every day. I can become a contemplative prayer person. I can begin to write my life story. I can begin to help other people find meaning in their lives, especially when they're in other areas of my care center and need help in ways that I can provide. after about the first 3 years of the Community of Hope founding, we discovered we were growing so fast that we needed something really special. A special way for people who were in Mississippi and Alabama, Kansas, Oregon, Wyoming, Utah. They wanted to be together. They wanted to meet other lay chaplains. Somehow, some way, to come together, to share our ministries, to get to know each other, and then to learn new and hear new speakers and new things going on in the world. So we've started an annual 3-day conference. And of course, since we were founded in Texas, we invite people to come back to Texas. We think we have one of the finest retreat centers in the country, and it's very near Houston, near the airports. We'll pick you up and bring you out. To have that kind of retreat, to be refreshed, to be renewed, and to grow in the ministry to which God has called you. Community of Hope is just beginning. 18 years is the time when young men and young women begin to grow up. And we are beginning to do the same thing.